You are listening to the IoT For All Media Network.
Welcome, Romil. Thanks for being here today. Appreciate you taking some time out of this busy, kind of historic day to kind of chat with IoT For All.
It's always good to chat with you, Ryan. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So before we get into more about what today is all about, would you mind just telling our audience, those maybe who are not as familiar, about yourself as well as Core?
Sure. Look, I've had the distinct honor now of being CEO of 3 different companies. My first job when I was a young 40-year-old whippersnapper, thought I knew everything and learned that I really didn't know much, was a public company that first brought our family to Atlanta in the procurement analytics space, and then led a company headquartered in Detroit, which we pivoted towards the connected car space, learned a little bit about IoT, sold that to a strategic buyer in the middle of 2017, and then later in 2017, joined Core. I can honestly tell you, Ryan, I did not know that day that less than 4 years later, I'd be at the New York Stock Exchange, having just gone through our first trading day as a public company. But that just tells you what a focused team and really a fantastic market, which is the Internet of Things, can do for you.
Yeah, we talked a lot more in detail kind of about the background, the story, kind of the evolution of getting Core to this point in our podcast we did a number of months back. But
Right.
I wanted to focus more on today because it's not only a big day for Core, but it's also a very big day for the industry. And you're calling in from the New York Stock Exchange. Core has gone public. Tell us a little bit more about kind of what the scene's like there. What's it like being down, or I guess for us, up at the New York Stock Exchange in New York? And just take us through the day a little bit.
Yeah, so look, hugely exciting day, obviously, because it represents the culmination of a journey that's been 4 years in the making, about a year, certainly in the official throes of going public. But it was a fabulous scene today. There were actually 3, 4 different companies that I saw that had first trading days happen today. We're actually going to come back on Tuesday, October the
Okay.
12th, and open the markets here at the New York Stock Exchange,
Fantastic.
which will be a very nice moment. And we're going to run a little board meeting here with our new public company board that day, Tuesday and Wednesday, the 12th and 13th. But today was also very important, obviously, our first day of trading, right? And so after living through the energy of the opening bell, we sort of stood by the trading desk at Citadel Securities until our first trade comes about.
Right.
And I got to ring a bell, which I might have hit a little too hard. I was a little afraid I was distracting Jim Cramer and the CNBC crew in the booth next to me when I hammered away at that thing. But let's just say I had a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. It's just a fun time. And yeah, this is the gorgeous library here in the New York Stock Exchange where I am. A lot of history here. They're coming up on their 230th anniversary here. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, again, I mentioned this kind of in advance last time I spoke to you, but congrats. This is a very big deal. Core is kind of one of the first companies of its kind, a pure play, global IoT company to go public. So tell us a little bit more about the decision to go public. Obviously, it's a decision not all companies get the opportunity to make, but when that decision does come up, it's not always an easy one to make. Some companies want to stay private, some see benefits of going public. So kind of tell us about the decision to go public, as well as maybe as you compare it to something like staying private, why you decided to kind of go the public route.
Yeah, it's such a great question and deserves a little bit of an answer. So bear with me here, right? So look,
Sure.
first of all, I'd just say that Core's been a pioneer in the M2M, right? Machine to machine before the term Internet of Things was even popular, and then the IoT space, Internet of Things space. And a lot of credit is owed to the founders of Core and the people that have come before me to have worked our ways through the 2 major eras of Core, as I think about it, before what we now call Core 3.0 or 3.0, that we're working through. And look, 3 years ago, we started our transformation to become that global IoT solution enabler that you just mentioned, right? With the mantra being, let's go deploy, manage, and scale for our customers. Let's make it easy to adopt IoT. Let's simplify the complexities. So if what we do is deploy, manage, scale, help you deploy successfully, manage seamlessly, and scale confidently and securely, how we do it is today connectivity solutions and analytics, right? So we
Right,
were an
right.
IoT connectivity shop 3-4 years ago. We're now much broader product catalog, if you will.
Right.
So so this is a great step now to take debt down significantly, give us financial
Okay.
flexibility for growth, get great partners in Cerberus, etc. But the
Gotcha.
decision to go public was not sudden. It was
Okay.
not a spur of the moment. It was certainly not driven by the popularity or lack thereof of SPACs and everything else. To us, from roughly 3 years ago, in I think it was the May board meeting of 2018, I was relatively new at the company, and we used to get a banker in every year to give us advice on strategic alternatives in front of the company, which is just a good
Okay.
governance practice. And
Sure.
we talked about, hey, with our characteristics, the management team, our CTO, our CHRO, myself, we've been public company executives before, so we have experience in that. Number one, the company has great public company characteristics, revenue visibility off the charts. I've never seen
Right.
anything like it. Recurring
Right.
revenue, the 91% statistic that we put out
Right.
for 2020 recurring revenue. So it just makes for a good, solid public company without, a lot of volatility and ups and downs and sort of downsides and those sorts of things. Because when we deploy devices, we're pretty confident we're going to see revenue coming from those devices for the lifetime of that device, and that gives us
Right.
this great stickiness, right? And then I think the other reasons to go public, of course, are, well, I mentioned a couple already. The financial flexibility piece is not to be underestimated. When you have
Sure.
9, 10 more turns of EBITDA of debt on the company, it starts to constrain you in all sorts of ways. And we now feel like we have a proven strategy, a great foundation for growth in a great market. And we want to actually accelerate growth. We want to grow not just organically, but inorganically.
Sure.
And going public, and again, getting the debt down and getting a public currency, public stock currency to use in M&A activity, we think that will open up opportunities for faster growth. And then, we didn't do this, as Tim Donahue likes to say, we didn't do this with a kitchen table SPAC. We did it with Cerberus's sort of first real SPAC. So you got a $50 billion entity behind you. You got guys like Tim Donahue who have forgotten more about telco than I've learned, who was the CEO of the SPAC, who will be our chairman for the next year or two. Not that he's looking for more to do at this stage of his career, but he said, Romil, you asked me to stay on, and I'm going to stay on. And so, just the connectivity provided by the group of advisors we have around us, we feel like that will be very helpful. So those were, I would say, the main reasons, Rand, to consider going public right now.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Someone who actually, myself, who has a financial background, looking at some of the numbers you all put out there, the recurring revenue, the ability to kind of see into the future confidently about the recurring revenue that's going to be projected is something that companies are just all over the industry are striving for. And I wanted to ask, what do you feel like this move going public, kind of being the first pure play IoT company to do this, means for the industry and will do for the industry?
Yeah, look, I think it's a perfect setup on a topic that I usually will soft pedal, but as I said, we've always been a pioneer, and so for us to then be the pioneering pure play IoT company that actually says let's go public because we're ready. This decade of IoT, as I keep calling it, to 2021 to 2030, when we go from 12 billion connected devices around the world to 75 billion connected IoT devices around the world, leveraging trends like eSIM and LPWA and 5G and on and on. It's important. It is a milestone. I have received many emails and calls and so forth from some people I don't even know very well, just saying how proud they are that an IoT company is going public. And look, it will come with a little bit of near-term, let's say, education pain, but because the markets don't know how to think about us, right? And they and certainly not the public markets. The private equity markets actually are explodingly hot, getting much higher multiples of EBITDA as valuation. Our companies in the private sector, that's not quite there in the public sector, and yet we're not in this game for a month or a year or a few quarters, right? Or even a few years, right? I mean, we're in this game for 10 years, 15 years as 5G rolls out and 6G is being discussed. And whether I'm here or not, my intention is to position Core as well as we can as a leadership team, to just make sure that the people here have a phenomenal journey ahead, do a lot of good things, including, IoT for good, as I like to say, and make this a better, more connected, more intelligent planet.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to really understand the future potential for the industry. When it's in more the private side of things, have been turned on to that and been focusing on that and understand and basically live it on a day-to-day basis of where IoT can go. So it makes sense as to why some of the more the public-facing side of things may be a little hesitant when it comes to understanding IoT companies, their business, their model going public. But if you really look at deep down into kind of what an IoT company is and what it potentially can do for almost any industry, the potential is massive, right?
It really is.
And I think we're going to see more companies have the opportunity to go public in the future. And I wanted to ask you, from everything that you've learned through this entire process, what advice do you have for companies who are thinking about potentially going public at some point during their IoT journey? Because obviously this is not something, like you said, it just happens overnight. This is a long process. They need to build a company that would be attractive for somebody to help take them public. So just from that standpoint, what have you learned and what kind of advice do you have for companies maybe kind of considering this as potential down the road for them?
Yeah, what a great question. And I'm going to try to sit back and make the most of it, make some intelligent points here. But look, the first thing I'll say is keep your mind open. It's too easy for us, whether we're private equity owned, venture capital owned, whatever stage of the company we are in, to get too busy just with everything that has to go on, right? And serving customers and getting revenue, of course, has to be the number one priority. And so, but you have to be able to take a step back, keep an open mind as to is going public a reasonable thing for you? Does it make sense for you? And look, I mean, of the many reasons I mentioned about going public, one that I didn't talk about and is no small part of this is that, the last decade, people have generally spoken of IoT as having maybe not met its expectations. Right? And yet we're so excited about this next decade. Why? Well, we've learned so much from the prior decade, and companies like Core are now coming out with a much broader one-stop shop type, IoT in a box type mentality to make adoption easier. But these large enterprises that maybe were running regional, simple little POCs, proof of concepts or prototype type projects, are now excited about the potential and are getting ready to go global, right? Now, on the one hand, our global stance is fantastic and very helpful. On the other hand, these large enterprises, when they're making a bet on a partner, they're going to be concerned, right? These vendor and procurement groups are going to be concerned about it. Is this a small shop? How much, how many eggs am I going to put in this basket, and that sort of thing. And so when a moment like this happens, when we are a public company, a lot of those questions and doubts are put aside. So yes, on the one hand, I'm excited about the visibility we're getting, and we're going to get through this process. People actually know, hey, the transformation Core has been under these last 3 years, breathtaking expansion of our services. The visibility is nice, but equally nice is the benefit of our customers knowing we're a real partner. We're not going to let them loose and suddenly be gone overnight or anything like that. So I would say keep your mind open. Consider all your alternatives, even though it doesn't necessarily feel like it's the best use of time. For me, 3 years ago, spending time with a banker thinking about whether going public was a good idea or not, you could have argued then I should just do something else. But frankly, it can work out, and I'm certainly a proponent of it. But as you and I stay in touch, Ryan, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, let's see how this works out. I have a feeling it'll be good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the insights that the public is going to see through Core going public, when kind of transparency into financial data and understanding a bit more publicly about the industry, how solutions are built, the bottlenecks that occur, the roadblocks that occur. I think it's just going to shed a better light on IoT as a whole, and I think everyone across the industry is going to benefit, no matter how big or small.
I think that's well said.
But I know you're busy. I know you got to get out of here and probably have tons of other things to do. But the last thing I wanted to ask you is, just for everybody who's kind of been paying attention to this whole process, who's excited about the IPO happening today, what's next for Core? What should we be on the lookout for?
Well, look, I mean, at some level, it's sort of time to get back to work. You know what I'm saying? It's
Sure, right.
been a little distracting. I
Yep.
mean, even though they call a business combination or SPAC a short form process,
Yep.
and it is, right. It's certainly one of the advantages of it is it can be done in 9 or 12 months as opposed to 18 or 24 months for a regular IPO. But it's taken effort, and so I'm looking forward to getting back to that 5-year journey we were on.
Yep.
Maybe reframing that, what, maybe it's time to actually look at the next 5 years, because now with a
Sure.
public company, you can think differently. Our new Pubco board gets to charter our course and say, okay, we will invest more. We'll maybe give up some EBITDA, margin percentage points in return for more growth. There's lots of exciting conversations ahead. And I mean, look, I'm a believer in setting yourselves 3 years, 5-year plans and
Yep.
getting after it. And I know the team around me is chomping at the bit to get after these next 3 and 5 years.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's very exciting times. Congratulations again. I think, getting back to work is probably, at least for me and many other people I know, the more exciting part of the process. So I'm sure you're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But again, thanks again for your time. Have a wonderful rest of the day, weekend. Enjoy this. This is fantastic for not only Core and the industry. And thanks for taking time to speak with me today.
Thanks so much for having me again, and you too. Great weekend.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks again for watching the IoT For All Media Network. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Be sure to hit the bell notification so you get our latest videos as soon as they become available. But other than that, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.